Ciao a tutti, it's Aurum, and if you go to hotformatmeta.com's tier list section, which by the way is the best hot format resource out there, you will see that, tier 1 you have gear jazz, you have hat, nothing weird there. Tier 1.5 you have mermels, cats, spellbooks, mythics, bungeons, and what the fuck is this? Okay, so the tier list here is only determined by tops in the last year, and in the last year, Watts have topped 14 times. Well, what artifact? But why? Why? Because, if you don't know why, then, you will look at the deck and you will think it's shit. And that was my first reaction, too, as you'll see soon. But yeah, like right now the deck is so good that I can top with Robbing Goblin with it in the deck and, actually still have it be a good deck. Robbing Goblin, memes aside, is decent here, but yeah, it's not like the best card. I probably wouldn't have played it if it wasn't such a funny card to resolve. But yeah, like, why Watts? What's the deal with Watts? That's what we are. That's why you clicked on the video, I assume. But yeah, how did it start? Well, it started all when on the 31st of January this year, Flamonauta approached me on Discord in DMs and asked me what I thought about Watts. Now, I had seen the lists that he had posted occasionally with his rants about it, and I didn't think much of anything about it. But at this point, well, why did he ask me about it, and why did I not really think about it? Well, because at the time I was mainly known, besides being the Constellar guy, as the guy that topped with pretty much any artifact deck, even the worst ones. So I topped with Lightsworn Artifact Trap Tricks. I topped with here, Lightsworn Artifact Trap Tricks, freaking Ninja Artifacts, Jurak Artifacts, Noble Knight Artifacts, nowadays even Synchron Artifacts, all that kind of jank. And, the main synergy that all of these decks have is that, they can allow you to get into the rank 5 pool, or at least they can produce level 5 monsters in some ways, shape or form. Jurak, you have Velo, ninjas, you have Hieratic Asset, Noble Knights turn themselves into level 5s. Lightstorms aren't really that, but you could play Celestia. And Synchron is basically just Armadius Turbo. But I didn't really get it immediately that this is what's are basically an artifact trap trick side raid. So what do I mean by that? Well, what is an artifact trap tricks deck in the first place? Like, basically, what is artifacts' role in the format? The artifacts are a high synergy engine. They're a control aggro engine. Inherently, they can either be aggro, they can either be played aggressively, or they can be played control wise. But that mostly, how you play them really depends on the matchup. Versus artifact mirrors, and you want to play them pretty passively because you want them as removal. Versus normal summon reliant decks, you want them as basically trap holes. Basically, you just want to stop their normal summon so they can't really do anything in that turn. And versus other decks, you want to play them aggressively as your main beatdown win condition. And what they want in their decks is a low synergy normal summon engine that preferably pluses, and the other way to get synergy is like level 5 access, but that is mainly just lower tier stuff. That's not artifact trap tricks, that's just artifacts in general. But for if you want to play like artifact trap tricks, you want a level 4 engine that supports them, not directly. But how does what support them? Well, Seahorse is a plus machine. If you don't know what it does, which you're a normal person, you can discard it to add two thunders with the same name from the deck, and you cannot special summon during the turn you activate this effect. Crucially, you can add Thunder Seahorse with Thunder Seahorse. I feel like that was a nod to Thunder Dragon, but basically what that lets you do is you can tank yourself of 3 turns of special summons for a +3 that usually turns into a +5. And what Watts do, what Cobra basically can allow directly, and has 10,000 attack, has 1,000 attack. And when it inflicts direct battle damage, you can add a Watt monster from the deck to the hand. Meanwhile, Giraffe also can attack directly, has 1,200 attack. And when it attacks directly, your opponent cannot do anything else for until the end phase of the turn. And then you have Mahander, which is just an extender, but it normal summons. It lets you do an additional normal summons, but it's not like Pollux. You have to declare the effect. So, why are these cards good? Well, besides Mahander, which is kind of like Dionia, which it's almost useless on its own, but it's really good with synergy. But it's searchable, even though it's not as good, but it's searchable. Seahorse is a plus machine. Cobra is 3 monsters on its own if it's not stopped. Giraffe is brutal. It's just insane. It's also it's such a good bait. They really had to address it or risk losing on the spot a lot of the time. But they also are great at dealing with Gilgas because and face downs in general. Because with Cobra, setting a card is not a great defensive play, but with Giraffe, if they don't stop Giraffe, any monster besides it can attack into the face down and get rid of it, either by swinging over it or by making Black Ship in the main phase too. They are also nice at countering Soul Charge, which can be an issue because Watts can attack directly, so that's very nice. And for the opposites, what Watts bring to what artifacts bring to Watts. Well, Watts are not very good at beating over stuff. They can't do it without going into the extra deck pool. So Moral Attack being a 2100 extender is great. And as I already mentioned, artifacts are great at deciding the tempo of the game. So they allow you to take such a big minus in tempo with Thunder Seahorse without being too big of an issue. Obviously it's also because of the format being slow, but yeah. And in general, comparing it to other rank 4 engines like Heraldics or Gadgets or Go-Go-Go's, which I tried recently, they are very resource efficient. Cobra Seahorse is basically rank 4s on its own, but they are also they have a lot of synergy. They have a lot of coincidental synergy with artifacts, as in they like to run the same cards. Pot of Duality, you can play it very easily with Seahorse. Call of the Haunted, it's amazing in Watts because all of your monsters do something on the field. Whether it's Cobra, whether it's Giraffe, whether it's Murmileo, whether it's even Mahander. And speaking of Murmileo, another card that's great in Watts is Murmileo because the deck does not have a great turn 1 normal summon, or really any turn 1 normal summon at all. So Murmileo is just great for that, and it's also Murmileo, so it's great in general. But yeah, so Flamonauta approaches me with the deck, and while I was playing Dungeons and Dragons, he sends me a 4-page long PDF on it, and I read it. He basically begs me to try the deck in a tournament, because admittedly he's still not very good at the format. So yeah, he has a lot of confidence in the deck. And frankly, the deck at this point is has been through a lot of testing. It's not the same list as now, obviously, but it's still very, very nice. So let's just, like, if you look at the first list that he built, it's a lot different. It's definitely a lot different. Here he's still running the Honest, which is a pretty mid card in general. He's running a lot of Hunters, recycling batteries. He's running 3 Cobras. Only 1 double Cyclone. Let's not talk about the side deck or the extra deck, really. Yeah, well, I have to say that even here he does have something that is kind of weird for other artifact decks, but it's kind of the norm here, and that is only play these Tiras and M7 in the rank 5 and rank 6 in the rank 5 pool, because this is a rank 4 deck. It's not really a rank 5 deck, and especially without playing, since we're not playing Soul Charge, there's not too much of a point in playing others. But you really want your other cards. But we're starting off with this was the first list I brought, I think. I did add Scythe here already, but yeah, we got 3 Thunder Seahorse, 2 Mahander, 2 Wat Cobra, and 2 Giraffe, which is the standard. And then we have for now we have 5 artifacts, 1 big attack, 3 more attack, and 1 Scythe. Then we have a triple Ignition, double Cyclone, and triple Sanctum. And then we're also running 1 Mermolio, 2 Kage-Tokages. And Kage-Tokage is interesting because the main reason why it saw play in the first place, but then stopped seeing play, was because Flamonauta didn't go for Thunder Seahorse into Thunder Seahorse a lot, because he wasn't confident in maintaining that tempo. And one of the main things that you need to know how to do when playing Watts is being able to determine where the game is going in the next few turns, and also assess your hand in general, to determine whether you want to go into Thunder Seahorse with Thunder Seahorse, or go into Cobra. Like, in general, the deck plays kind of like Artifact Traprix, but it's definitely more aggressive, or more active is the better term, which leads to being more aggressive. But if you look at hands, they are reactive cards at the end of the day. But Watts, you need to normal summon them and attack with them to have them do something, so they are inherently active cards. And if you go Seahorse into Seahorse, Kage-Tokage is gonna be dead for 3 turns, so yeah, that's why it got cut. But yeah, for extenders we have Kage-Tokage, double Instant Fusion, and triple Call of the Haunted. And then I played 3 Maxi, 1 Memorolio, Bottomless, TTHN, Warning, and Torrential, and also 3 Duality again. And in the extra deck, the extra deck hasn't really changed too much, besides, King the Feral Imps getting cut. But yeah, it's Marvelous and a Jamanite for Instant Fusion. Then, play this M7 and Tiras. And then for the rank 4s, we have Omega, which, is not the most important guy, but, comes up. Kaigogan, which is kind of the boss monster. Double 101, which is not mandatory, but is definitely very common in this deck, because it's such rank 4 heavy deck. Exiton, you don't make it much, but when you do, it's usually accompanied by Giraffe, so it's game winning. Dweller, Black Sheep, Ragna Zero, Cowboy, and yeah. And for the side deck, if you look at the side, I'm not gonna go into the side deck in too much detail. Besides, I played Memory of an Adversary in the side here, and Flying Sea, which I cut later. But the main, and also the bank. But the main thing you can see here is that I am already thinking about the fact that this deck, one of the main issues of the deck is it cannot side too many cards in. Because it has so much engine in the main deck that you can't really do that, which is why Double DD Crow is the standard in Watts in general. When usually, in most decks it's a 3-off, but in Watts, you don't really have the room to side in all three. If we look here, two copies in 55% of the decks. Meanwhile, most of our decks there's a lot more. But yeah, this was the first stop with the deck. I'm gonna go over some interesting tops in general because they are interesting. So an interesting list was Floatstone Mafia's Thunder list. Basically, he was trying to play double Pahander over the Kageto Kages. Because this meant that Seahorse was always live. Because an issue with the deck is Thunder Seahorse is, it's very low synergy. As in, you want to see it alone as much as possible. If you see it with Giraffe, it's fine. But if you see it with Cobra or Mahander, it's a lot weaker inherently. Still a good, it's still a +1, but you can't really take. It's not a +3 anymore, or a +5. And Pahander is interesting. We actually tried to run Pahander over Mahander for a bit, because Mahander can get crashed into by Ice Hand and Pahander can't. However, we found out that more often than not, the 100 attack is irrelevant because you want to crash Ice Hand with Mahander. Because the only way that that happens is they have Breakthrough skill plus Ice Hand, which is pretty niche. However, if you have Giraffe or if you just have no level 4, no back rows, crashing your own Mahander into Ice Hand is does come up, and it's also relevant in the Watt Mirror too. So that is something. But yeah, we can also see that he tried Diamond Direwolf here, which I have considered, but there's just no room. And he played Rhapsody, which later on became standard. Once Crazy Box got cut. And you can see here in the side deck Imperial Iron Wall, which was something that I feel like he probably took from me. I don't know. No, actually, he predated me. Interesting. But I did try Imperial Iron Wall for a while in the deck because, since I can't side too much stuff in, that's good for Imperial Iron Wall because it's a card that doesn't work well with other side cards. And it's really great into Bujin, Spellbooks, and Mythic Rulers. However, I did cut it over time because I didn't. It felt a bit awkward, with the other cards you're running. That's kind of the issue with Imperial Iron Wall in general. It's great standalone, but it's kind of awkward with other cards. But yeah, like around here, we started bumping up Myrmeleos and we started cutting Kageto Kage, as I already mentioned. And another thing about Floatstone's list is he ran 4 artifacts, which I feel like that's the first list to do that. Yeah. Why 4 artifacts? Now it's kind of the standard. But the thing is, if you're running the deck more aggressively, you don't really want to open artifacts much, and you don't usually need the 5th. Like, it's pretty rare for me to draw into that back rows because it's a more aggressive deck than Hat. So just having better opening hands on average is more important than not having dead top decks later on. But yeah, it took a little bit for me. I was kind of behind on that. Not only Floatstone, but also Flamonauta did it first, while I did run it in the same tournament with the 5. But I did come around to it eventually because I was kind of biased because of artifact experience with Constellars. But yeah, because Watts aren't as aggressive as Constellars. But something that you can also see here is that at the same time that we started running 4 artifacts, we started running 3 double cyclones, which is kind of weird. It's kind of counterintuitive. But the idea is like double cyclone makes your opening hands better. Because if you see it with an artifact or an ignition, you don't have to ignition your own artifacts. It makes your artifacts live earlier, which is important when you're trying to be aggressive. And it was also at this time that we started running triple Murmillo at Play This Pay Out 9, which shocker, Murmillo is good in hat format. Who the funk? And in my lists around this period, you can also see that I was experimenting with running Soul Charge. And you might be asking, why was I not running Soul Charge in the first place? Well, the thing is, the deck really likes the battle phase, and the deck doesn't special summon a lot in your early game. So it can be it's a bit of an awkward card in the deck. It's a power card when it resolves, often, usually. It can even be not that great, but but it's an awkward card. But the main reason why I didn't run it is basically the deck, as I already mentioned, has a lot of engine in the deck already. You have the Watts, you have the artifacts, those are mandatory. You have Murmillo, which is half engine, half tech, which is kind of why we like it. But Soul Charge is it's engine, but it's cuttable. It's very cuttable. So I wouldn't say it's wrong to run it, but I also don't think it's great. There's also the fact that we don't run many rank 5s, so we can't really take too much advantage of it. But yeah, like in general, it's kind of weird. But a side effect of me playing this deck so much is that now I kind of underestimate Soul Charge in other decks. But yeah, this is basically when the core of the deck was figured out. It's 4 artifacts. The Mahanders, the Seahorse, Cobra, Giraffe, Ignition, at least 2 double cyclones. I go back and forth between 2 and 3. Instant Fusion, Duality, Sanctum, Call of the Haunted, Bottomless, Warning, and Torrential Tribute, with Murmillo being very common. And afterwards, the other cards kind of get shuffled around. There's also a Blabs list, which is kind of weird with the cards and hands, and you actually cut the card in a later tournament and played main deck the hands. And the thing is, like, Murmillo is just great, even because it's also great as rank 4 tool, as a rank 4 fodder, and it's great with Call of the Haunted, which Blob is also running only 2 copies of, which is pretty insane. But yeah, like, Karkar is great in theory, but the fact that it's not a level 4 body that's basically a pseudo extender isn't great. And the hands, they are good turn 1, but they are not as good as Murmillo or Karkar. And they are not as good as Murmillo as rank 4 fodder or Call of the Haunted. If you look at Melita's lists, before the one with Robbing Goblin, basically what happened here, well, not here, but some differences, some things that got figured out. For example, I cut the scythe from the side deck, the second scythe, which was a remnant of Constellars and other artifact decks, but the reason was that versus Girgias, which was one of the decks in which I wanted the second scythe in, because the games do actually go on for a bit, the second scythe, yeah, usually in grind game, if you want to resolve all 4 artifacts, the second moral attack is going to be useful over the second scythe more often than not, even if scythe is better early on. There's also, Dark Hole, which I started maining again. For a while, we kind of just forgot that we could main it, but it's really, really nice, to be honest. And but it is cuttable. There's also there's a lot of tech slots to try out. For example, I tried Memory of an Adversary for a bit, and Flamonauta has played Dimensional Prison also, and I've also tried it, and they're good because they're simple 1-for-1 removal. But Memory of an Adversary is also nuts versus Hat specifically, but it's obviously worse versus pretty much everything else. There's also Breakthrough Skill, which I kinda undervalued for a bit, and the second Triptych Triple Nightmare. There's Maxi, there's DD Crow too, but hand traps in general help you versus combo decks to maintain your position, because a big issue with the deck is if it gets overwhelmed, that doesn't happen often, but if it does happen, you can't really come back easily. The deck doesn't have a lot of comeback tools, with the whole thing with not running soul charges, that is a side effect. But yeah, there's also like Finish Chain, which we tried for a bit. There's the secret tech, Threatening Roar, which is good for for making sure that that Cobra survives for a turn and lets you get pluses. And a Robbing Goblin is an interesting card because outside of artifact mirrors, usually you're going to be inflicting a little bit of damage here and there on every turn, not just with direct attacks, but also just swinging over stuff with artifacts. But yeah, and when it comes to like summing up strengths and weaknesses, compared to Artifact Triptychs, you have Giraffe and Cobra, which are great versus face downs. Seahorse, which is basically a gear level power card for the deck, and you have access to rank 4s, and Bottomless is like entirely dead versus this deck. It's so terrible. Like, yeah, you hit Mortal Attack and you hit some extra deck monsters, but for you don't hit any normal summons, so that's pretty bad. And but comparing with weaknesses, your hands without Seahorse are a bit weaker than At's hands without, in general, like overall. It's a bit more of Saki deck because it's a high roller. It's a bit of a high roll version of Hat because depending on whether you see Seahorse or not, the power level of the deck changes significantly because with Seahorse, the deck is stronger than Hat. Without, it's a bit weaker. There's also the problem of not tech slots, not. You can't really side out a lot of stuff. Usually, what do you side out? You side out like. Murmillo's going second sometimes, Double Cyclone sometimes. Rarely you set out Duality versus like combo decks when you're going second, I guess. Call of the Haunted, I tend to not side out at all, but can happen. But you gotta remember that most of the time Call of the Haunted is just better than the side card you would like to bring out. And then there's also like your one-offs, like your trap holes, your tech rooms, and even stuff like Warning, Torrential, Bottomless, and Dark Hole sometimes do come out. And also Instant Fusion, I do side it out versus artifact decks because it's pretty weak versus artifact decks. So you still want to play somewhat passively. But the Cobra's main role is like baiting artifacts, so you can artifact them in return. But it's kind of weird. I'm actually still not too comfortable with artifact mirrors with this deck. It's kind of my main weakness. But it's not a bad matchup at all. Like if you look at the stats, the deck has a 57% win rate against Hat, which is great. Not so good versus Cat, but hey, we win some, we lose some, But yeah, 39% versus Cat is pretty bad. But the main thing is like we have a 59% win rate versus Girgias, which is pretty insane. It's one of Girgia's worst matchups overall. Yeah, in general, that is kind of the best thing. It's kind of like the matchup thread is basically like Hat, but slightly weaker, except Girgias, which is better. And again, Mahander is definitely weaker than Dionia, and you can't even run one like you can with Dionia. But in terms of weaknesses, like what the deck loses to, good side-ins. Breakthrough skill is amazing. Light Imprisoning is great, which is why I was considering Diamond Eye Wolf, but I ended up never really running it. The Bank is great because not only does it stop artifacts, it also stops freaking Thunder Seahorse, because it activates in hand. Mind Crush is pretty strong, apparently. I never got hit by it yet, but I gotta imagine that it's pretty scary, because in general the deck is very telegraphed. Because of Seahorse searching everything and Cobra searching, and there's a lot of searching going on. The deck is very easily telegraphed. You can kind of tell what's gonna happen next. You can bait with Giraffe, that is something, but besides that, there's pretty predictable. And another kind of weird card is Mirror Force. Is a pain in the ass because you attack so much. Like the main reason why Tirasi is so great in this deck is not even because of Artifact Caprix, although it's obviously amazing in this matchup, so you want that for that. But it's because if you have a rank 5 option available and a Cobra in hand, you pretty much always want to go into Tiras and then normal summon your Cobra to avoid losing the game to Torrential Tribute. That's pretty big. It's also, the deck is also annoyed by Thunder King Ryo and Mistake, but artifacts can out them. But depending on the game state, they can be really annoying. But yeah, like in terms of my latest side deck, at least my side deck is a bit changed. Although I don't really want to go into too much details, and also I don't remember them because I've been playing other stuff in the last month. I've been playing bots for like 5-6 months now, so I wanted to change. I wanted to play something like Go Artifacts, which failed, but oh well. But we have double DD Crow, obviously. Maxis, if in this list I mained 2, but I often side all 3. Kind of depends on how I'm feeling to expect. But Diffusor for like Mermals and Bujin going first. Mind Control for Girgias and Artifact Mirrors. MSTs, which is interesting because this is an artifact deck, so you don't really need the MSTs. However, it's just it's such a good card, honestly. Like I was very skeptical at first, but honestly, it's just such a good card. Breaking boards, hitting floodgates. It's really nice. I really like it. Then Acid and Deep Dark for the Mermelio. Breakthrough Skill for artifacts. DNA for Bujins and Mermals. Bujins and Spellbooks, sorry. And Needle Seeding for combos as a comeback tool. As I mentioned, the deck can't struggles with comebacks, so Needle Seeding is great for that. And then the Wiretap, which I added not too long ago, and I absolutely love the one Wiretap in the side deck because it stops the deck's main side-ins. If you remember, I mentioned BTS, Debunk, Light Imprisoning, Mind Crush, Mirror Force, all of these cards are great versus the deck. Most of these are mainly side deck cards, and Wiretap is just amazing versus all of them. So yeah, that's kind of why. Also great into Sanctum, for example. So yeah. But yeah, that's why Watts are now a tier 1 deck, arguably tier 1.5. That's it for me. Leave a like, join the Discord, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good shit, and goodbye.